Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 34 of Merchants of Novigrad, a podcast where we discuss everything Gwent. My name is Weisenberg, and together with my babbling co-host Trovinat, we are joined by a competitive player representing Team Elderblood, who you may know from Twitch by the name of GaBane. How are you guys doing?
Hello.
Very well, very well. And
I'm well as well.
see the
Glad to be
enthusiasm
here.
splashing off the screen right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But before we get into it, as always, a few words to people in chat. Guys, if you have questions for either us or our guest, you can ask them in chat and we'll try to catch the more interesting ones and answer them during the show. Also, if you'd like to stay in touch off stream, you can follow us on Twitter at Novigrad Podcast. And as usual, this episode is going to be uploaded on YouTube, Spotify, and a number of other platforms either later today or tomorrow. So if you can't watch it live, there is your chance. With that being said, let's move to the first segment of this episode, which is, as always, what have you been up to? So, GaBane, what have you been up to, my man?
Gwent-wise, I've been up to making nice work, as I promised. I promised my viewers and I promised my teammates I would find a way to make nights viable. I'm not sure if I found it, but I took them to 2500, so I guess it's something. So there's that. The secret is to not play the scenario and to not play the new leader ability, if you're wondering. At least it's my secret. So Gwent-wise, that's what I've been up to. I've been trying to keep my sanity without playing rent-free. And yeah, trying to make nights work.
And other than Gwent, how are things? How is the pandemic situation in France where you currently reside?
It's getting worse, actually. It's getting worse. We're afraid some more restrictions are gonna come in. Hopefully they don't, but we have many more new cases and people are getting kind of worried. So am I. So I don't know. We'll see, I guess. We'll see. I'm trying to be optimistic.
And how about you, Trovi? What's happening south of the border?
Very, very, very busy in my personal life, but that kind of means that I haven't gotten the time that I wanted to spend on stuff like Gwent and Rogue Mage. But other than that, I'm doing really well and excited to have this conversation today about the new cards.
And not only the new cards, because we also have a brand new game to discuss, which at the time of preparing this episode we didn't even know about.
Nope, indeed. That came as an absolute surprise, I think, to everybody, just the timing as well.
Yeah, that was a good surprise. I was very happy about that, especially since Gwent is not its most fun state right now, let's say. So having an alternative was pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel like this episode is going to bring back memories of Merchants of Negativity. I remember having a series of episodes somewhere around the time of Iron Judgment where our guests continuously were not exactly happy about Gwent itself. But to quote a famous Gwent proverb, the worst part about streaming Gwent is having to play Gwent. So
I'm actually very passionate about the game, so that's why I'm a little bit annoyed because I love playing Gwent. You know, I actually unironically love. I jam so many games each season, and I'm having so much fun. That's why I'm getting so invested about the meta and stuff like that. I will actually do my best to remain positive because things are not as bad as they actually are. Maybe, well, that made no sense, but as I thought they are, I guess. And yeah, I'm gonna try to remain positive, but no promises.
I mean, so are we.
I think you bring up a good point. The fact that we are critical about the game just means that we care a lot about the game. It's not we wouldn't be doing that if we don't care about the game. So that's something to keep in mind, I think.
Exactly.
Once we go into the more juicy details of the expansion and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if you guys saw that meme. I think it was originally related to League of Legends, where it was a series of drawings, and the first drawing was like a mob throwing stones and saying, "This game sucks, it's terrible, I hate it." And then one guy asked the other, "Are you not playing League of Legends?" "Yeah, every day, I love it." So
Yeah.
that's basically us.
Yeah.
Yep.
One does
Yep.
not exclude the other.
Yep. True
All
enough.
right. Yeah, maybe we can dive into the details immediately then in Gwent itself. So we did get, of course, the release of the brand new expansion. And maybe the first question, GaBane, is more related to, before we go into the cards themselves, related to the presentation and the marketing of the expansion itself, such as the reveal campaign we've did. So what was your first impression on that front?
Interesting. So honestly, I did not watch too many card reveals, to be honest, because I mostly just watched the cards themselves. Because I'm a competitive player, you know, that's the one thing I try to figure out is whether a card is good or not. But the few card reveals that I watched seemed really good. I think the worst part about the card reveal season was that I did not get a card reveal. No, I'm joking. I was actually not a partner back then, so it made sense. And also, I made my own card reveal. Since they didn't give me a card reveal, I made my own one. In case you missed it, I highly recommend checking it out. I revealed a very overpowered card called Heatwave 2. And yeah, I guess that's about it.
Just to explain it to the audience, what did Heatwave 2 do?
Heatwave 2 was so basically in my presentation I explained that they were trying to fix a few problems with the game with Heatwave 2. One of those problems being that some old cards will never see play again, and they wanted to make them playable. But also, Heatwave was such a beloved and underplayed card that they decided to re-release it in a stronger way. Obviously, I'm being ironic. Heatwave is one of the most played neutrals of all time. So this Heatwave 2, it was called Karate Heatwave 2. It costed 8 mana, and in addition to Heatwaving, well, basically doing what Heatwave does, it would also spawn a wolf pack on your row. So that was some very overpowered stuff.
Yeah, the most important card of the game.
8 mana, you said. It feels like some other games are spilling over.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, eight provisions. 8 provisions. Also, we got raided by my friend Moshcraft. So
That's
all the
very, very nice of him.
all the Moshcrafters.
I actually have quite a few words to say about the review campaign itself because I've been continuously criticizing this format of reviews because the main reason is, as a streamer, I don't know much about video editing, and it seems that the devs are dead set on the video format, and that automatically excludes a lot of community members, a lot of partners from applying for a review. And as far as I know, the previous time they did it, so that was the content drop in April, I'm not mistaken, they only got 2 more signups than they needed. Like normally there's like 100 people asking to review a car, and now these numbers are very, very low because a lot of people feel like, well, I don't know anything about editing. YouTube is not my platform. I'm not making videos, so they feel excluded from the campaign.
I see. I didn't know that, actually. I didn't know that. Again, I'm mostly concerned with the competitive side of cards, right? So I barely watch. I'm not like, I know many reveals were really good. I'm not trying to say I'm not trying to throw shade at the people who reveal their cards. The few I watched were fantastic. I'm in no way saying the reveals were not interesting. I'm just saying that, you know, I'm streaming, so chat is constantly like, "Oh, have you reviewed the new card? Have you reviewed the new card? Have you reviewed the new card?" So I don't even have time to watch the reveals. Somebody just gives me a screenshot of the new card in chat, and instantly asks me to review it. So yeah.
It makes sense, absolutely. But since you already said you are more interested in the competitive scene, let's dive into the expansion, which is called Black Sun. And despite it being called an expansion, it only contains 27 new cards. Do you think such a limited number of new additions is enough for this drop to be called a fully fledged expansion?
Okay, so I think one of the most impactful meta changes we've had was, well, At least lately, because the decks that are meta are still decks that are meta from that card drop. Is actually not this expansion, and is actually not the last expansion. Is a card drop when they added King of Beggars, Henselt, and this kind of stuff. It was like 10 cards, and it was more impactful than the next two expansions. So it's not about the number; it's the number of new cards. It's about what they do. So I would much rather prefer if we had more cards and weaker cards, so they would just offer new options instead of power creeping us into more limited options like they do right now. I actually think, aside from the Erudite fiasco, the Golden Necker expansion was a very, very good one. I think the cards that were added were interesting without being too power crept, except for maybe Conjurer's Candle. Conjurer's Candle was a bit too good, maybe. But other than that, like for example, I know many people don't like Compass, but I think Compass is one of the best designed cards of all time. So I thought that expansion was very, very good, power level wise, especially because it was too weak. People might think it was too weak, but I think that's a good thing about the expansion. The thing that the fact that it was too weak is exactly what made it good. Except for the Erudite fiasco again. And with this expansion, I don't know. I'm not gonna start criticizing it right now, but there's already a ton of problems that all of you who play ladder probably already know, right? And I don't think those problems are gonna leave anytime soon. When I did my card review for the new expansion, okay, fine. I was trying to stay positive, but fine. I won't stay positive. When I did my card review for this new expansion, I instantly gave Renfrey a 0 rating design-wise, not power level-wise. I have 2 ratings. I have a power level rating and I have a design rating. And I instantly gave Renfrey a 0 point in design, same for Renfrey's gang. And my reasoning was that there's only 2 ways this card can go. Either it turns out that the 25 units restriction is just too difficult and Renfrey is never gonna see any kind of interesting play. Or more likely, what will happen is that the restriction is actually not that difficult, and every single fucking deck will play. Oh, sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Yes,
I'm
you
sorry
are. You
about
are
it.
allowed.
Okay.
It's an 18 plus show.
Okay, great. And every fucking deck will just jam her, and she will be everywhere. And sadly, option B happened. But even if it was option A, it would be very bad design, right? So. Oh yeah, I kind of predicted the direction that Renfrey would take, and I wished to be proved wrong, but sadly I wasn't. At least so far, I wasn't.
I would like to circle back to 2 things you said in this monologue. The first one being, you said that the 10 card drop was much more impactful.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you said it, I actually have to agree, because not only we had King of Beggars, but for example in Novigrad we had something like Jan Kalvide, who proved to completely change the way you play Novigrad, and it actually dethroned the usual thinning options such as Blight Makers, Mage Assassins, but also DMT from being auto included. So yeah, that's a very good insight. And another thing.
Out of the, I'm sorry to cut you off. I thought that I just wanted to expand a little bit with an interesting stat on those 12 cards that were released. Like, right, 2 cards per expansion. So all 12 cards show competitive play, except for maybe Ardal Ebdahi. Maybe except for Ebdahi. All 12 new cards, so very high level competitive play. On monsters, you had Arakas Queen and Detlef, both of which have. Well, Arakas Queen is extremely toxic. Detlef is in a toxic archetype, but that's another story. Nilgard had Kelvit and Ebdahi. I guess Ebdahi didn't really see play, but Kelvit, as you said, is one of the most impactful cards of all time. Hansel and Radovid are the reason why Siege is so good right now, especially Henselt. Milva got nerfed. Milva had to get nerfed. Saskia is insanely strong. She's played in no unit decks, sadly, and not only. King of Beggars had to be nerfed 2 or 3 times. I'm not sure. Was it 2 or 3? But yeah, we all know. And Melfart was included in many. Well, he was auto included last month, and even before that, he was included in lots of SI devotion lists. Who have I forgotten? Did I forget anyone? Any faction? Oh, Skellige.
Yeah.
And in Skellige, we had King Brand, right? Who sees play. And who was the second one in Skellige?
Ceres Fearless.
Ceres, and yeah, of course, Ceres sees lots of play in Sigvald. So yeah, I don't remember the last time there was a card drop. Well, all cards ended up being meta defining, like not just included in decks, but straight up meta defining. And almost all of those cards were like deck and meta defining. So I think it's pretty crazy when you think about it.
I think King of Beggars also got a nerf that was, well, a buff that was intended as a nerf, because I think they increased the counter on him at one point as well.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't 12 at the beginning, I think.
Yep, it was supposed to be a nerf. So it was supposed to be that way so you don't just slam Savola and get it instantly. But it turns out it might arguably have made him better.
It's still 12 free coins, so.
Yep.
And a spender, so yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mentioned that you said 2 things that I was interested in, and the other thing is you called it an expansion. While in fact this year we are only getting 1 expansion, and that's Black Sun. CDPR is not considering all these other card drops expansions, but we can already see that the perception of the community is quite different. Like, people will see a card drop that contains 10 or more new cards, and it's instantly being referred to as an expansion by the community. So who knows? Maybe in the future CDPR will also consider renaming all these drops, all these releases as proper expansions.
Honestly, another interesting fact that I noticed when I was reviewing cards is that I was more interested in patch notes than in new cards. When I was reviewing new cards, I was like, oh, Harmony, okay, sure, new cards are good, but Harmony will never see play unless they rework some card, and I was sure they would. Color, well, we all know how that ended. I saw Strive Archetype, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. The scenario will never see play unless Strive gets a rework. Okay, they reworked Necker Warrior, very cool. So yeah, I think many people were expecting more things to happen during patch notes. And honestly, I find patch notes usually more impactful. Well, not necessarily more impactful, but more important for the game. Like, if they don't do any new expansions, people should not think that the game will remain stale, because those patch notes and card changes can be way more impactful and way more interesting than actual new cards. We have so many cards that are basically not in the game. Technically, they are in the game, but you can never ever play them because of how power crept they are. Changing them is basically adding a new card, right? Just keeping with the same art. So good enough for me, if they do that frequently.
Yeah, you said a lot about balance changes having a lot of impact. But what kind of impact do you expect from these 27 new cards? Like, we already talked a little bit about Harmony, Thrive, and Renfree, but overall, do you think the impact of these 27 new cards is going to be enough to shake things up continuously, or to maintain the hype?
27? Weren't there only 3 new cards? Renfree Cat and Renfree's Gang? Are there other new cards? Really? I thought it was a 3-card drop expansion. Renfree's Gang, Renfree, and the Cat and Monsters.
Yeah.
Isn't that what happened?
Yeah, there was a filter on in your game, I think.
Oh, I see. So there were actually 27 card drops. So yeah, as always, when you have the thing that got me really, really mad on stream, if you've watched my stream, there was a couple times where I was really trying to contain myself because of how annoyed I was. My problem is not that the balance is not necessarily good. My problem is that since fucking closed beta, we have the same problem. We have the same problem that is not present in other TCGs. It's only a Gwent problem that they cannot, and seems that they do not want to fix, with broken neutrals. I don't understand. We've had the Witcher trio in Homecoming. Then we had Roach that was in every deck because he was very strong in the beginning. Then we had Gimpy Gerwin, and that's just to cite some of them. We had the Unicorn duo that was in every deck at some point. Then we had what else did we had? Recently we had some stuff as well. We had Erendite, of course, recently. That was everywhere. Golden Necker Erendite in every deck. And every expansion, it seems they do it again and again and again. Everybody tells them in the community that they hate it. They also say it themselves that they don't want the game to be based around neutrals that are everywhere. And yet, like 1 month after Erendite, they released Renfrey, which is another card that will either be everywhere or nowhere. I think, for example, 80 is a perfect example of a well-designed neutral. It can be played in some specific deck. Sadly, the deck in which it's played right now is a very toxic deck. It's a triple cat spam, but that's not the question. Even forgetting that deck, it's a kind of card that can be played somewhere, but is nowhere near auto include. And I think that's the way neutrals should be going. Or they should be tech cards like Squirrel, like Peller. Those are good neutrals.
Yeah. I think even on Aeromancy and Royal Decree were that prevalent at some point. Yeah.
Yes. So my message to CDPR would be like, if we don't want that, you can just stop printing neutrals. Nobody will be sad if you just don't add any more neutrals to the game. Just don't. You've proved you cannot balance them, or you don't want to balance them. So just don't add any more neutrals. It's fine. Nobody will be sad about that. No more neutrals, or only tech card neutrals. And I think it's fun. Tech defining neutrals have no business being in the game, because there will either be too good and every deck will play them, or they will just be meme status and nobody will play them. And is that really what we need? When we get so few new cards, do we really need cards that will either be memes or game breaking? I don't think we do. At least that's my opinion. I don't know. Maybe it's a hot take. Maybe people like neutrals to be deck defining. But I really don't. I really don't think neutrals should be deck defining.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's what people want. People don't really want neutrals to be deck defining. As a matter of fact, in the last few months, we've seen so many complaints about Devotion being power crept. So I would argue that the community wants the opposite. They want faction cards to be more powerful, and they want faction-based archetypes to be thriving on the ladder.
Devotion and Adrenaline are such good mechanics. It blows my mind we don't see more of those. Devotion and Adrenaline are so good. If you had Adrenaline, so many broken cards would be fixed. Like, for example, the new cat. Give him Adrenaline, he's fixed. Give him Devotion, he's fixed. So many. You can afford to print so many overpowered cards if you give them the word Devotion. But for some reason they don't want to. They don't want to use those two keywords, which I think are fantastic. Those are two of the best keywords we have in the game.
And yeah, it's the freaking Prophet who got Adrenaline for no reason at all.
Yeah. yeah. To be fair, if Prophet didn't have Adrenaline, he would be very, very toxic. But yeah, we need more of it. We definitely need more Adrenaline.
I mean, I think there are a few neutrals that are interesting. I think Shoop has always been interesting, especially because the requirement is a bit more strict than some of the other cards. Rune Mage was also a surprise to me. It's a pretty balanced card that has an effect on specific archetypes, like Assimilate. Although the effect might be a bit too much, but
yeah, I don't mind Rune Mage. I like those kind of neutrals. I agree. Rune Mage is also another example of is also an example of a good designed neutral.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I can agree with that.
All right, maybe to your own personal preference. Even though there were only 27 cards, we did have some extra support for existing archetypes. Whether that's strong enough, that's something to be left to the side. But what are your personal favorite decks and cards so far? You did mention Knights already, but
so NR Boss is my favorite archetype of all time. Like during the old times, I used to play lots of like as a buff archetype. You know, the one with Royal Inspiration. I actually unironically played it at some point. I played with old Demavend in some buff decks. with Visegrad and this good stuff. That was one of my favorite archetypes. That was my favorite archetype of all time.
The Visigoth machine gun.
Yep. So when I saw that they released support for this archetype, I was very happy. I did not expect it to be very good because it lacks control, and that's something you cannot afford in current meta. You have to either be the greediest, most broken deck, or you need to have some control. So for example, the cat deck doesn't have any control because it will outpoint everything, even Sigvald, which is amazing when you think about it. Yesterday, I was co-oping with Nick R, who you probably know, one of the best players of all time. And he was telling me, if you're frustrated with Renfrey, just play Sigvald. So we were playing Sigvald on his stream, and he matched into Cat at some point. And Cat just outpointed Sigvald, an active Sigvald that didn't get answered. I mean, Sigvald got purified for like 40 points, which matters. Okay, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying Sigvald got completely unanswered, but I think even with the 40 points, Cat has had a good chance of just outpointing Sigvald, which is crazy when you think about it. So what was my point? Yeah, I was saying the deck is not very good because it lacks control, and it's not that it cannot do crazy overpowered stuff like Sigvald or like this cat deck. But
I think your version is Shield Wall, right?
yes, my version is Shield Wall because I think if you go to the path of trying to force a long round and then win, you're doomed. Because there are too many decks that will just outpoint you in a long round, and your scenario is sure that your scenario will make lots of points, but nowhere near something like Cat or something like Sigvald or something like, I don't know, even SI scenario or Nilgard scenario. In long round, they will all destroy you. So I went to the Golden Necker pass, and I basically chose a card that seemed very good, included them, and had some pretty good games, actually. I have a pretty good strategy with that deck. Also, New Leader. My problem with New Leader is that, sure, it plays for 15, while Shield Wall plays for 6, right, technically. But those 15 points are forced to spend on Grace cards, and Grace cards are honestly not that good, sadly. I love the mechanic. It's my favorite mechanic. It's my favorite new mechanic. I think it's very cool. But Grace cards are sadly not that good right now. So you have to use it on your for example, one of the best units in my deck is Dandelion. You buff him instantly with a shield wall, and then you buff the Maiden Shield in deck, and it's so strong. So
I love that card, the Maiden Shield.
Yeah, me too.
As well.
And with the new leader, you cannot use it, right, on Dandelion, because if you use it on Dandelion, well, your leader is gone. So yeah, there we are. That's my new archetype by a mile. And flavor and lore-wise, like card art-wise, I also really like the cultist stuff. I think it's really cool. Not gameplay-wise, I don't think it's a cool archetype, but flavor-wise, I think it's really cool.
We are definitely gonna get to them at some point, but I would like to focus on the new set of scenarios for a minute. What's your take on the idea of double scenario decks, and if
really
they become a thing, what tools would you resort to in order to counter them? Because we already know that some people are trying double scenarios.
Yes, I'm one of those people. I'm one of the people who tried it, and so those kind of strategies at lower ranks can work. But if you're playing against somebody who has a good understanding of the game, those strategies will never work, and let me tell you why. Yesterday I had a game, actually, against double scenario Nilfgaard that plays for 1,000,000 points. And that's barely a figure of speech. There's a clip, I don't know if you've seen, like, again, with Nick R, where a scenario where he plays against the illusionist spam Nilfgaard scenario. Not illusionist spam, the practitioner spam. And in third round, the Nilfgaard gets like 2,000 points. It's not a figure of speech, actual 2,000 points. So So that's the kind of stuff you can do with a Nilgard scenario. But the problem is, yesterday I had a game with double scenario. I won round 1. Round 2, what I do, I play a shit bronze. They have to play scenario. I play another shit bronze. They have to play their gold. I play a third shit bronze. They have to play a gold. I play a fourth shit bronze. They have to play the second scenario. Game is over. In round 3, I'm 1 card down, but I have a few golds. They don't have anything left at all, and I just win. So that's the problem with all new scenarios. All of them suffer from the same problems. They are very easy to bleed. Because one of the reasons is option 2 requires a long round. Not option 2, chapter 1 requires a long round for requires a long round to work, and it's very easy. So basically, for the new scenarios to work, you need to win round 1. You need to win round 1. But strategies that work very well when you can guarantee winning round 1, there's a lot of them. Salamander is a strategy like that, that if you win round 1, Salamander, the Salamander Gellert spam. If you win round 1, you're almost guaranteed to win. What other strategy? No unit actually, traps. Traps is another strategy that if you can guarantee winning round 1, even in those greedy metas, you're almost guaranteed to win the game in long round 3. But there are too many strategies like that, and they don't see competitive play because, as it turned out, guaranteed winning round 1 is not that easy. Even with something like Saskia that plays for an insane amount of points and is on interactive, does not guarantee you winning round 1. And for that reason, the scenarios suffer the same problem. For example, the SI scenario, if you give them a long round, they're going to play for 5,000 points. Like it's a figure of speech, but they're going to play first. You will not beat SI scenario in a long round, the new SI scenario. But it's so easy to bleed. You just play round 2, and if you play round 2, many people, myself included, when I started competitively playing, are scared to play round 2. It doesn't feel comfortable. You're putting yourself out there. You're taking the risk of losing card advantage. It feels uncomfortable. It feels a bit scary. Then you're gonna go into round 3. You're gonna be 1 card down, very likely. You're gonna have to use your resources in a way that you don't like. But against those strategies, you need to do it, and it's a very good way to counter them.
Yeah, indeed.
Oh, and I didn't answer about double scenario. Sorry. Is there a way to play double scenario? So I tried double scenario Nilfgaard. It was terrible. I tried double scenario SI. It was terrible. I think it puts you into 2 different directions. You have to add bronzes that do not synergize with each other. I don't think it's viable. I don't think it's viable right now. I don't see any combo of the. Yeah, there's also double scenario NR that works according to some, but I'm doing quotation marks because it's not double scenario that works. It's Siege that works. Siege is very, very good. Siege is very good right now, and you're making Siege worse by adding the Knight package. So that's why double NR scenario works. It's because Siege is very good right now.
I think Monsters has the same issue, just judging from the card, that Haunt almost works better in a Thrive deck than the new Haunted Manor, I think it's called. Depending on how long your rounds are, of course, but
Monster suffers with the same problem for I don't know how long. They have no control options, and the answer to that is give them absolutely crazy cheesy strats, which I really hate. That's not the way to go. They give them Witch's Sabbat, which is a card that should have been removed yesterday. They give them this cat that can play for like 1,000,000 points. Like, they have no control, but they have the greediest, most cheese binary strategies that you either counter and insta win or you can't counter and insta lose, which is such bad gameplay. It's so bad. I don't understand people who play those strategies, because one thing is it's frustrating to play against, but even when you play it, what pleasure do you get? You basically don't get any decisions. Either your opponent can answer your bullshit or your opponent cannot answer your bullshit, and it's just game over. I don't know. I really don't understand that.
What do you mean, GaBane? Triple Gurney Cora is still fine.
No, please. No triple anything. Please remove Arcas Queen, remove Witch's Sabbat. Please. Please remove those cards.
The best matchup against the cat that I had was Mr. Opponent open with their defender, and then they play the cat, thinking, okay, I can't do anything about that. I just played the Yennefer Illusionist, and boom, cat gone, game over.
That's kind of cool, actually. That's kind of cool. But yeah, basically, imagine you're playing a deck that has some control options. Purify Defender, Yenwo Cat, done. Done. The deck is finished. There's no or don't play control options. Put Xavier, boom. Wins a round. Put Xavier. Just delete everything. No game has happened. Just you could counter it and there was no game. You couldn't counter it and there was no game. So I don't know. It's just like a coin flip, a matchup coin flip. I really don't like this kind of stuff. Geralt the Gwynblade is saying Araka's Queen should only consume Deathwish, and I agree with that. It should be Deathwish support. It should not be a way to cheese some dumb strategies.
Especially because we got, I think it was only a few months before that we got the nerf for Karantir to avoid having duplicate big monsters, and then they came up with Araka's Queen, and it just got a repeat.
I have no words for this kind of stuff. We have Arendite, and it gets nerfed because we don't want to see strong neutrals everywhere. And like 2 weeks after Arendite nerf, well, not 2 weeks, but figure of speech, they released Renfrey, which is like the new Nectar Arendite. I don't know, man. I don't know.
We've kept the section specifically for Renfrey later on in the.
I've been shitting on Renfrey since the podcast started. I'm so sorry.
Not a problem. But maybe moving on to some other
before we
things.
move on, I would just like to take the moment to appreciate the name Geralt the Gwynblade. How was that name not taken?
What is Gwynblade?
Gwynblade means white wolf in Elder, so it's Geralt the White Wolf.
Wow, that's really cool. I know Geralt well. He's one of my viewers. Well, not my viewers. He's probably watching other people as well, but he's in my chat a lot and he's a cool guy.
You don't own him, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, but shout out to Geralt.
Yeah, it's a great name.
He doesn't have a t-shirt that says, I'm a GaBane viewer.
No, he doesn't. He probably doesn't. But he's in my chat a lot and I know him and he's a cool guy. Yeah. Is what I'm trying to say.
All right. Yeah, let's move on to a few of the other new things that were added in the expansion, such as the infused keyword. So what's your opinion on that new mechanic and its future? Because we've seen a few other new keywords introduced in the past that weren't really used beyond their initial introduction. So what is your opinion on that?
It gives the option to give strong abilities to cards with more options to counter them, like you can purify them, but also with more options to play around them. Like, for example, yesterday I figured out you can play Vandergrift, infuse him with the Maiden Shield stuff, and you can carry it over for 3 rounds, which will never happen. Don't worry. In case people are saying, "Oh, so OP," no, it will never happen. It will never happen. It will never actually pull it off. But I'm just saying it's a potential strategy, and
it's a cool interaction.
It is a cool interaction. Also, when the expansion was released, I was saying during my card review, I will probably be playing Siegfried in all my decks in the beginning, because I expected much more infused, actually. I was expecting to see Harmony infusing everything here and there, and you just slam Siegfried and remove all the infuse. As it turned out, infuse is not very good when you have Renfrey decks everywhere. But mechanic-wise, I think it's a good mechanic, but it's also a dangerous one. I don't want to see too much stuff like Vandergrift carryover.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, Vandergrift carryover is very difficult to pull off, but if you have more stuff like these that infuse resilient units, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see too many resilient units getting infused. Actually, I just had an interesting idea. There's something you can do with the sausage maker in SI where he can guarantee to get triple resilience. If there's good statuses to infuse in SI, you could do some nonsense with that. But I don't think there are too many good things to infuse. I guess you could add the new... Sorry, I'm rambling. I want you to deck building mode. You could add...
Not a problem.
You could add the new 5p card and like give him 5 times gain 1 unit per turn. and then you carry over it to third round. But that makes a greedy deck even greedier. That makes
I'm already happy that we mentioned the sausage maker on this.
true.
Yeah, that's probably the first time we mentioned that card specifically on the show.
Ever, yeah.
Here we go. Creative deck building with GaBane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like to summarize. I like the Infuse keyword. I think it's a cool keyword.
Yeah, I think it really shows the amount of flexibility CDPR now has in relation to abilities and what they can do, which is also interesting if you compare it to what they did with Renfrey, but we'll talk about that later.
Just hearing the word makes me.
Well, if you need to reach behind you and grab one of those bottles to prepare for that conversation.
I wish. I have some health issues right now. Otherwise, in this meta would be much more enjoyable if I could drink while playing it.
Yeah. All right. One more small topic that I want to talk about is the fact that we also have some extra support for Thrive and Harmony, which have always been seen as the more new player friendly options to play with, because it's pretty easy to wrap your head around and to play. Do you think that the new additions we got to that change that? Because there's a few new interactions that you need to infuse with Harmony or Thrive, and that makes it more complicated to play with.
It does. Yeah, it does. That's a good point. I've been trying some Harmony decks, and it's actually a headache to know, do you play the Bear first or whatever it is, the Infuse guy, or do you play your Infuse cards first? But ultimately, again, those two archetypes suffer from the same problem, no control. Like Monsters Thrive, you can't control, and like again, Monsters have only two ways to play the game. It's either cheesy strats. You either cheese with absolutely nonsensical mechanics like Fledler. Fledler is a nonsense card. It's a 6p card that can play for 200. Or with Cat. You either cheese with nonsense mechanics that are just completely, and you abuse them as much as you can. Like you try to play Fledder 10 times, you try to play Cat 3 times. You either abuse strong mechanics or you point slam, but the meta is not allowing point slam to be viable right now. So only way for monsters to be viable is in a very unhealthy way, sadly. So to all the monster enjoyers, I'm sorry for the state your faction is in. I'm actually myself a monster enjoyer. I like the faction, but not as it is right now.
I'm even sad for general cat enjoyers, since cats get a very bad name now.
Yeah, I'm also a cat enjoyer, and what they're doing with the cat is making me ashamed to be a cat enjoyer. What they're putting this poor cat through.
Yeah, it's really getting a bad name.
It really is.
Absolutely.
Honestly, Cat is getting blamed for the true problem card, which is Witch's Sabbat. The true problem card is Witch's Sabbat and Defender. Those are the true problem mechanics that shouldn't exist. If there's no Witch's Sabbat, if there's no Defender, Cat is not such a problem.
Yeah, especially because with Witch's Sabbath you can also just play both of them in the same turn, and it's completely unanswerable, at least in a single turn.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I always remember how Defenders were first added to the game, and everyone, competitive players, tournament casters, community members, everyone was saying this is gonna be very, very problematic, and nobody listened. And when nobody listens, after a few weeks, maybe a few months, you just stop complaining because you see it doesn't lead to anything. There is no response from the devs, so the Defenders haven't been changed at all. And yeah, I agree about the Witch's Sabbath as well. It's the only thing it enables is toxic cheesy decks, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly that. And Defender is the worst mechanic of all time in Gwent. If you ask me what the mechanic or the card or the thing I hate the most about Gwent, it's definitely Defender. I'm a big engine player, so when Defender was released and their excuse was, "Oh, we're here to help engine decks because control is too strong right now," at first I was happy, but soon it became obvious that Defender is too slow to be played in engine decks. If you're taking one turn to play Defenders, then it means you're delaying your already slow engine with even more turns, and you need to draw defender. So basically, defender will never be played in engine decks. Defender will only be played in decks where you're doing some bullshit combo strat that defender is a cheese strat. It's not an engine strat. You'll play it in cheese decks like Sigvald, which is a good example of a cheese deck. In like triple Garnicora cat whatever stuff. In like practitioner spam, floaty mage spam. Defenders is plays in all this kind of toxic strats. Alumni, which is the definition of an engine deck, only Pepega's played defender in Alumni. Like I am, in all due modesty, I think I was a very, very good Alumni player, having created the archetype. And I never even considered playing defender because if you play defender, you're already slowing down an already slow strat. If you play defender, you have to play Tisaya and all this kind of super greedy stuff, which is you're not playing an engine deck anymore. You're playing again a cheese combo deck.
Yeah, another issue with defender is that in various factions you can effectively replay it multiple times.
Yeah, defender should have doomed 100%. That's a fact. Defender should have doomed it. It's a small fix, but it's already making some things better. I don't think it's a good enough fix. I think defender just needs to get removed. I think there's no reason for defender to be in the game. I think it's a terrible mechanic.
Because if you give a defender doom, then you're also clearing that doom status if you purified the defender.
Yeah. So it's a trade-off, like it's doomed, but now you cannot purify it, kinda. Or if you purify, but to be fair, if you put defender and it's doomed in your deck, I don't think you put a way to resurrect it. I don't think your reasoning is like, oh, my opponent will not purify my defender, so I'm gonna put a resurrect effect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you purify your own defender, then congratulations, it's not a defender anymore. Sorry.
I've seen a couple of good ideas for defenders if they were meant to stay in the game. For instance, a timer where the defender would purify himself after, let's say, 3 turns.
Not bad. It's still probably good enough for cancer combo deck, sadly, to work. And I think, we're backtracking again and again and again, but I think so. At first we said the problem is defender. No, at first we said problem is lack of control. Then we said no, problem is not lack of control. Problem is defender. And now I'm saying no, problem is not defender. Problem is I win cards. I win cards and strats. Strats that if you can't deal with them, you just lose. There's nothing you can do. You just lose. Cards like Sigvald, cards like Arrakis Queen, cards like Gurnikora even. Gurnikora is not such a card. I guess Gurnikora is not that OP. But you know what I mean. This kind of stuff is a real problem. Okay, just so people don't say I'm not being objective and only talking about archetypes I don't like. Cards like Leticia, which is one of my favorite cards of all time. Leticia is also one such problem card that if you can't remove it, you just lose the game. Those kind of cards need to be gone from the game. This kind of cards need to be gone. If those kind of cards are gone, defender is not so toxic anymore. If defender and those kind of strats are not so toxic anymore, you can play some monsters maybe. Maybe. I don't know. That's a lot of ifs, but too many things to fix.
Speaking of decks that, if left untreated, can be very, very cheesy, let's talk a little bit about the Cultists, which is also a new addition this expansion. The devs said they wanted to aid underdeveloped or left behind archetypes. How would you describe the value of the package and its potential and future in Novigrad?
Oh, that's so difficult. So the one thing I didn't review during my card review was the Cultist package. I instantly said I cannot evaluate it. I don't understand it well enough. I don't understand whether it's really good or really bad or if it's viable or not. And I said I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna give it a power level rating because I cannot evaluate it. And sadly, I will have to give you the same cop-out answer. I can't evaluate properly this strategy. Obviously, it has an insanely high ceiling. So if Nilfgaard... but then again, it's also very vulnerable to bleed. And Nilfgaard is already a faction that struggles with winning round 1. It's already a faction that can almost never win round 1. So it could be a tournament strat, I guess. It could be a tournament strat because you probably auto-win some matchups. You probably auto-win matchups that don't have lots of control. But then again, you have already lots of archetypes that do that. Maybe it's an alternative to the practitioner spam, you know? Maybe it's something that could work in a similar macro, meaning you basically have an insane amount of points that nobody can counter, but for that you need to do some setup before. It's honestly very hard for me to evaluate. Right now, fact is they suck. Right now they're not playable because in current on ladder they're not playable right now for the reason I described earlier, that you just win round one and then you bleed them out. You just don't give them a long round three, and it's the same for the SI scenario and it's the same for the Nilgard scenario. Both have insane ceilings. Both are very vulnerable to bleed. That would be my evaluation.
And not only that, I would say a single heatwave basically ruins the only card that offers cultist synergy. So imagine setting your scenario up throughout the rounds, playing all these low tempo 4.5 point cultists to get you some cultist carryover, and then your scenario gets heatwaved, and you have basically no leg to stand on anymore.
Yep. So to answer that logic, people were like, "Oh, I know, I'm a genius deck builder, so there is no actually Heatwave 2. GaBane is a liar. There is no actual Heatwave 2 in the game. So I'm gonna play both scenarios and I'm gonna destroy those Heatwave guys." And then what happens is what I described earlier in the podcast. You just split both scenarios in round 2 and both scenarios do nothing. So you don't get Heatwaved, you just get bled to death. And you're just very sad. So yes, right now it's not viable. Honestly, right now it's not viable, and I think it's it's another card that I'm not very happy about, because if it's viable, it will be really unfun to play against. If it's viable, it will be again very binary, right? It will be either you can answer their bullshit or you can't and you lose. And I don't think that's good game design, honestly. That's why I'm not a big fan of those scenarios. At least the SI scenario kind of I don't know. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the design. I think something like the ST scenario is healthier. Something like the new ST scenario, for example, is goes in a healthy way. It still encourages you to play a long round, but it's not like if you it doesn't read if you're in a long round 3, you just win the game, which is what potentially the Nilgard scenario and the SI scenario could read.
Yeah, the Scoretel one also, I think it's the scenario that plays for the highest points just by the prologue, the first.
It does. Unless depend on how many unit categories you have, I guess. But
Yeah.
technically yes. And then again, NR can play for a lot of points potentially, especially if the engine isn't answered, because it will drop a night engine, or it can just drop a big pile of stats with the knight that costs 4 and gets buffed by 3 if you play it from your deck. It's also something you can do. Probably not the best card to put in your deck, but potentially that's something you can do. Point is, ST scenario I feel is fair. It has a very clear point cap. It's not gonna play for 1 million. It has a very clear point cap, and it's fair. That's why it will never see play, because it's fair. Fair cards don't see play, sadly.
Yeah,
I do think it's interesting that you also had the same, because I felt the same way about the cultist package at the beginning when they were revealed. I could not wrap my head around what the point potential or the would be. It's interesting that you had the same feeling.
Yeah, definitely had the same feeling.
I've played cultists a fair bit in the first few days, and to be honest, it's so difficult to evaluate. Like, even if it sticks and you have the golden hand, so to say, it's so difficult to evaluate how many points you're going to get from your cards, because there's just so much happening. And personally, as somebody who plays Novigrad almost exclusively, I would say it's pretty boring. It's not very Novgardian to play the cultists.
I see what you mean. I can definitely see what you mean. It feels like just
with Weisenberg.
spam, and spam is not really a Nilgard thing, is it? It
Yeah,
just
I
feels like you.
definitely enjoy playing Eldebald Van Morlehem servants more, even though it's not that great. But using all those nice infusions and copying them, that's definitely something Novigrad would do.
I think that's another example of good game design, actually. The Van Worlem servants. They have a very high power potential ceiling, but you have to work for it to make it work. It's not just like, oh, I slam Renfrey and I play for 50 points. That's good game design, I think. Again, I cannot keep Renfrey out of my mind. Rent-free. Oh, she's not rent-free. She's rent-free in my mind. She lives rent-free in my mind. That's what she does. That's why she's called rent-free.
Oh yeah. Moving on, getting one step closer to that golden Renfrey question. We already discussed this a little bit, but in my opinion, in many ways, it seems NR received the most flavorful and potentially impactful package because it's not only the new cards; it was also combined with a series of reworks. You already said that you are an enjoyer.
Yes.
But what's your opinion on Grace as a status and its viability in the future?
As a status, it's my favorite status in the game. I think it's a very cool status. It encourages you to make risky plays. It encourages you to play engines. It encourages you to set up your stuff. It encourages you to play smartly. I'm not very objective again because NR is my favorite faction and NR buffs is my favorite archetype. So I'm not objective. I'm a little bit biased here, but I think Grace is a fantastic keyword, and I hoped we could see more of it. As you said, you mentioned reworks. As of right now, I think they're kind of weak, honestly. So in my deck, I will actually be making a guide maybe today on that deck. So if you're curious about that, do check it out. In my deck, I only included 3 Grace cards, which are the 3 best ones in my opinion. Well, 4. I included 4. I included the new 5 Provision Knights, which are potentially very good. Their Grace effect is not a very healthy one. It gives shield to adjacent units, and if you remove the shield, the units get buffed. So it's a very specific effect that you really need to work for to make it work. It has a high ceiling if you make it work, but it's not easy. It's in no way easy to make it work. So I think that's exactly how cards should be designed. And so yeah, I think it's a fantastically designed card. And of course, I'm playing the Maiden Shield, which is such a cool card. I love this card so much. It's so cool. And I am actually unironically running Garrison in my deck. And it's good. The funny thing is it's good. Because it basically plays for 20 with the... If you have the shield, the Maiden Shield, you either trigger him in one turn with Garrison. If, for example, you miss Dandelion, or if for some reason you couldn't buff him in any way, you just slam him, you play Garrison, and he instantly gets both Graces activated. But that's a secondary use. The primary use is you activate him, and then you give a target with Bronwyn, and then Garrison plays for 20, and then you get Ignite, and then you close the game and you leave. But yeah.
I do love the lore, the way both the Knight Errant and Maiden Shield have like almost a story to how their abilities work. Like Knight Errant like blocks basically damage from if the I think it's
after becoming strong enough.
Yeah. But if the units right next to them are damaged, they actually take damage as well. Like technically defending the ones that they're next to. And then the Maiden Shield just tells a story while you're going through the Grace ability.
That is very cool. I agree. I completely agree with that.
I'm going to digress quite substantially here because you mentioned Garrison, and it instantly reminded me of how often the card's official name gets simplified because people called Garrison Gate, like play the gate, right? Or like you have this uncrate longship, play the boat. Or you have the Caravan Vanguard, play the Desert Boys. Like, I love how all these names in the community lingo just get simplified to you. Play the idiot, play boat.
Yeah. I like that as well. That's very fun. That's one of the fun parts about being a streamer. You learn new terms, especially as I stream in English and in Russian. Sometimes Russian guys will tell me, "Oh, play the Jadi," and I'm like, "What the fuck is Jadi?" And it turns out it's a meme for Peller in Russian community, and I have no idea, And it's so funny. That's definitely something I like about streaming. That's definitely a fun part for me.
Yeah, there was actually an idea that I had, and I discussed within my own team of maybe releasing a series of articles about how certain cards receive their nickname, because that nickname sometimes is not applicable anymore. For example, people still say, "Oh, he played Vanilla Geralt," but why is Geralt Vanilla? Like nobody knows, because nobody played, or almost nobody played open beta where Geralt of Rivia had no ability. That's why he was called Vanilla.
Y'all are missing the most interesting term, though. Can you find it? I have a question for you. The one term that is used extremely wrong, that has nothing to do with Gwent, and yet is extremely used. If
Tutor.
anyone can guess, chat or you, sorry?
It's tutoring.
That's one, but I think there's one that's more used. I guess tutoring has been an accepted term in all card games now.
It's also, I think roping comes from Hearthstone
roping,
as well.
There we go. Yep, that's what I was thinking about. Roping.
And here's the best story. I've never played Hearthstone, not a single game, but I watched a guy by the name of Corvus Corax, who is a streamer who occasionally plays Hearthstone. I was like, holy shit, man! When your timer goes down, there's a rope. I didn't know that. That's where the term comes from.
Yep. Chat is guessing mid-range and tempo, but no, I think both mid-range and tempo are applicable terms to Gwent.
Yeah.
But yeah, rope was what I was thinking of. Rope because is everybody says he's roping me, but
it's a Hearthstone visual, and to people who never played MTG, I'm one of them actually, but I learned the story. Tutor was a card in MTG who used it was like a guy who used to play a spell or something. I don't know. I've never played the game. But that's where the name comes from.
Yep. It was a guy who tutored a specific card type. I didn't play the game either, but I saw it. And it's a card that tutored a very specific card. Hence the name. Tutoring is now drawing a specific type of card.
I think procking is also used wrong quite often in Gwent.
Which one, sorry?
Procking.
Broking?
Procking. So if you're triggering an ability.
Oh, procking an ability. Yeah. I see.
Because that's a programmatic term that you use for a random event, but if you trigger it physically, like you know what you're doing, and it triggers because something that you do, it's not procking technically.
Okay, interesting.
It's not happening randomly.
But you know what's the best term in Gwent ever that's almost never used anymore?
Tell me.
Hero Pass. I fucking loved Hero Pass. Oh man, Hero Passing was just so good. It never happened.
I did it 2 days ago.
Oh really?
Yeah, against Renfrey, and he fucking tied me. I was so pissed. I was so pissed off. He tutored. He roped me. Then he tutored Renfrey, which procced his new leader, and then he punished my Hero Pass.
Yeah. All right, that digression aside, I think there's 2 factions left before we get to the juicy part. So next up is Skellige. So Pirates, I think we're already at a very solid spot recently, as far as playability at least. So how do you see their futures with the new cards that were added and the increased weather integration? Okay. And Clash, of course, but Clash basically already
I'm going to tell you a secret. So please turn off the podcast. We cannot tell that to everybody. No, I'm kidding. So the secret is the actual good Skellige deck is Seagold. The actual good Skellige deck is extremely difficult to play. So even I, who am a pretty good player, I reached 2600 with it last season. I'm still not playing it very well. Well, I'm not playing it perfectly optimally, but it's extremely good in current meta. You just completely annihilate all Renfrey decks. You auto-win all Renfrey matchups if you don't misplay. I'm just saying that after getting destroyed by them yesterday, but that's because I didn't play optimally, not because what I'm saying is wrong. Seagold is extremely good in this meta right now because we don't have any kind of control. So Seagold is very good, but Pirates are also good. Yeah, Pirates are also definitely good. I wish pirates were good for a reason that doesn't involve a 17.5p card, but yeah, that is the main reason. The new pirate card is really good. I don't think the pirate scenario is very good. I think I'm a big doubter of pirate scenario, but it seems like most meta pirate decks that I see on ladder are playing the scenario from hand. I don't like it. I think you should either play it from Compass or just play Fukucha. But it seems most people like the pirate scenario. So yes, Caligay is in a pretty good spot. It has at least 2 viable decks right now. Of course, we have to see how the meta evolves. I mean, if Rentry is still a thing, then Sigvald will just come back in force on ladder because it has such a fantastic matchup against those Rentry decks. Otherwise, yeah, pirates are also a viable. It's funny because with all the people I talked to, everybody was agreeing on one thing: you cannot nerf Sensor if you don't nerf Sigvald. Well, I guess CDPR said yes, we can, and yeah, since Sensor is gone, that's another card that was a hard counter to Sigvald gone. So I don't know. Sigvald seems to be in a good spot right now, despite the Malazine nerf.
Yep.
As a follow-up to the pirate question, what's your opinion as a pro player of a freaking Sigil being a pirate?
I think it's fair. I guess if it's seagulls are like kind of pirates. Seagulls are kind of in pirate stories all the time, you know. So I'm like, it's not straight up a pirate, but I guess they get a pass. I guess they get a pass. Like they want to force archetypes. We know that. We know that some cards that are not raids are raids. We know that some cards that have nothing to do with warfare are warfare. We know that some stuff that are not tactics are tactics.
What are you talking about? Obsidian Mirror is totally a very tactical approach.
A tactic. Totally a tactic, yeah.
It's such a bad card, by the way.
So they get such a bad card? You say, no, it's really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in previous meta, it was really, 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 really good. Again, I'm watching lots of Nick R streams, so I keep talking about him. But he was explaining, he was talking about that card. He was saying that because chat was again harassing him for like, oh, why are you playing this shit? Why are you playing this shit? He was like, you're playing in a simulate. You're gonna play Calvit. You're gonna mulligan it away if you don't need it, and you're never gonna see it. But in certain matchups, it will play for 5,000. Well, figure of speech. But for example, against Skoyatel, you copy the Roadie Dwarfs, and you have a card that played. You have 4 provision card that played for 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, so for 15. That's pretty good.
Against
you
Sigvald.
played. Sorry.
Against Sigvald, if you get a couple of veterans,
against Sigvald, you get the boat and the cultist.
The veterans pop to 8 immediately if you copy
and the veteran. Yeah, you copy a boat, you copy a cultist, you copy a veteran. It's insane. Against NR, you copy 3 siege engines. It's pretty good. And if it's bad, if you're in a bad matchup, you just mulligan it away, and Calvit puts it on the bottom and you never see it again. So I think it's actually a pretty good card. It was, at least in previous meta. I don't know about this one.
Yeah, it must be my personal experience then, because whenever I actually thought this card is going to be good in this matchup, it always played for like 5 points.
I think the point is you have to know in advance what you're going to do exactly with it. And if you don't know what you're going to do exactly with it, you have to mulligan it. You either need to have a plan, you need to be like, oh, he will play Cultist, Boat, and I will copy it, or he will play Dwarven Berserkers, and I will copy it. If you don't think those things are going to happen, you just mulligan it away and forget about it. I think that's how you should view it.
And it's 6 extra points on Shaelmar.
Yep, exactly. Which is also a very strong card, let's see that.
I love Shaelmar. I've always loved Shaelmar.
And every single time I make a deck that has Shaelmar in it, I get people in the comment section, why are you including this card? It's bullshit.
Yep.
Come on, it was played at the Gwent Open once. It means it is viable.
It's usually like 16, 20 points.
Wanna know something fun about the Gwent Open and decks that were played in there? 2 of my decks have been played at like 2 or 3 opens. 2 decks that I personally made have been played at all qualifiers for the last seasons and on all the opens. Now all I need to do is get there myself. I'm the one who created the Mutagenerator Siege. I'm the one who created this deck, and it got modified a bit. Like 2 cards got changed, but I'm the one who had the idea to play those two archetypes together. So Lario built the Mutagenerator deck, but it wasn't playing Siege at all. It was playing dual stuff and Moshi Truffle and Rafard. And I was like, no, this makes lots of sense in Siege. And the second one is Alumni. So again, Alumni was also Alumni is a more complicated story, but yeah, now I don't know why I went to the tangent. All I'm saying is I need to get to the open now. My decks went there, now I need to get there as well.
Yeah. Soon, GaBane.
Or maybe you could ask for royalties. Like whenever your deck appears at the open, somebody has to give you like 10% of their winnings.
No, just give me that 10% of their spot. Like I get to play one game, they get to play all the other ones. I'd like that.
I do wanna go back to Seagull just really quickly because I believe it's the most flavorful card of the entire expansion.
It's kind of cool.
You hit 3 things. If it's damaged, you get a bunch of other seagulls all going to the food that you just created. And then afterwards, if something dies, you have a corpse. All the seagulls go back to the corpse.
Yeah, I agree. I like the flavor as well. And I think design-wise, it's also interesting.
It's not as flavorful as Freshnet.
Yeah, indeed.
The ultimate giant
that was not in this expansion.
I don't get the Freshnet one.
It's because he's basically a young dryad factory, which is his purpose in the books as well.
Oh, I just got it. That's actually hilarious. I just got it. I see. That's why he spawns young dryads. Oh, okay, I got it. I never thought about it that way. That's actually really funny.
Yeah,
it's a sex joke.
Yeah, I got it now.
Yeah, it's probably the most flavorful card right now. Yeah. The most lore-friendly card in the game.
I gotta agree, that's pretty funny.
I must imagine that was some sort of design meeting at CDPR where somebody just had a bright bulb above their head. Oh my god!
And the more vitality he has, the more of them he spawns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, that's a fun one.
Alright.
Where were we?
Again? No. Did you want to say something, Weisenberg?
Yeah, I just asked where were we because I
where were we? Yeah, so there was one more faction that we needed to talk about, and that's Syndicate.
Oh, the big brain faction.
Yeah, the big brain faction. So I think the most interesting mechanics-wise change that we've seen for Syndicate is the fact that a lot of the new horde abilities are tied to fee ability. Well, the other way around. So the fee abilities have a horde requirement. So some people say that's annoying, other people say it makes it more interesting, versatile, and more complex. What's your stance on the new mechanic? Well, not new, but...
I'm gonna give you the same boring answer. My stance on the new mechanic is play old decks. My stand on the new SI mechanic is that probably both old Devotion SI and the Necker SI are probably better. I mean, there's probably some cheese you can do with villagers and with the new card. Not probably, there definitely is. But how viable that is, I'm not sure yet. Maybe we will... I think SI has potential. Okay, let me rephrase it. As much as I think Cultists will probably not be playable, as much as I think Harmony will not be playable, I think SI is the one where we could see a new deck pop off. If I was to gamble on one faction having one of the new archetypes pop off, it would be SI. I think there's a chance because it's a difficult deck to build, and I think there's a good chance of something popping off with SI, with the new archetype, because it has a crazy ceiling. It has a crazy ceiling with stuff like villagers, with stuff like scenario getting you infinite money and infinite removal. In a long round, it has good potential. Whether or not it will be meta is very hard to say because right now it has 2 glaring weaknesses. One is bleed. You can very easily bleed it, as I said before. And 2 is heatwave, obviously. But maybe there's something you can do without scenario. Maybe there's something you can do without horde leader. Just play the new card with a bunch of villagers. I know Puzzle Express, who was in chat earlier, made some BS happen with villagers. I don't have his exact deck list, but I know he's playing some BS deck with villagers. With all due respect, Puzzle, I'm saying BS in a nice way, of course. I'm saying it in a way that he made something work. And I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, but I'm gonna say there's potential with villagers.
Mm-hmm. I think that I saw some screenshots with like 500 plus points.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think you can
and
do.
a lot of villagers.
But I mean, even if you don't go for the 500 points plus, which would involve a scenario, even if you go for the villager plays for 15 route, that's already fantastic, you know. You play it in I think Puzzle is playing it in a Necker deck, if I remember correctly. If you get a 15 power 6p in a Necker deck, that's really good. It also means you got a bunch of money, so I don't know. We'll have to ask the man himself, but I think there's potential with... I think SI has potential is what I'm trying to say. I think the card that has the most potential, the archetype that has the most potential to see play and to have new stuff happen is SI. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm still a doubter. I still don't believe too much in the scenario because it requires a long run too much.
Mm-hmm.
But there might be a way. There might be a way. I guess we'll have to wait for like maybe a Renfrey nerf or maybe just see how meta evolves during the months.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be widely played. It could be played on the ladder, specifically the higher levels, but not. It's never gonna be widely played because let's be honest, it has a serious disadvantage for average players. Like there's no way you are going to understand these cards and play them correctly in a minute. Like, it just.
Fair enough.
I remember reviewing those new cards on during the tournament, the Gwent Worldwide tournament. We had a moment to look at them, and I read them like 3 or 4 times, and I still didn't exactly understand how they're going to work. So imagine being a newer player or just a more average player, if it's even possible, be more average than me. Like there's no way you can play correctly.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a fair argument. Again, I'm very concerned. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound elitist, but I'm concerned about the competitive stuff, right? So for me, I don't even know what is played on lower ranks. I haven't left pro in like 6 months, so again, I'm not saying it to sound elitist or something. I'm just saying I actually don't know what's happening on.
Dude, rank 5. If you play rank 5, you're gonna feel like you smoke some weed and it's the best weed of your life and there's no drawbacks. Like the stuff you see there, oh man.
To be fair, the stuff I see in pro rank blows my mind sometimes. I'm like, how did this guy made it to pro? Yesterday I had a game against no, not yesterday, 2 days ago against Renfrey Nilfgaard. He went, so we were playing round 2. I was at like 60 points, something like that. He was at like 30 points and he was bleeding me. And so he played a card. Okay, he was at like 35. I was at like 60. I had 2 cards left. I played I had 3 cards left. He was already 2 cards down, so he had like 1 more card to play. He plays the 1 card, he doesn't catch up. And he passes. Like, dude, like he just literally throws 1 card away and gives me a free pass. He was the one bleeding, so he played his last card while staying behind me, and like he literally it's as if he discarded his card, and it was on pro rank and it was on fairly high MMR. It was at like 2460, which is very good during the early season, and seeing this kind of player like. Over there, it made me like, oh, sure, like that's the Renfrey effect. Like really, suboptimal plays do not get punished. He's probably one of the guys who like figured out early that Renfrey is OP, slammed a million games on Renfrey, just turned off his brain and made awful plays, but could still rank up because of the sheer power level of the new card. I don't know.
Yeah, speaking of Renfrey and rank 5, it actually happened on rank 4, as a matter of fact. So I was playing against Anar, and I already knew it was Renfrey because it had more cards in the deck than required. So I was like, yeah, it has to be Renfrey. So I was playing Cultists, and my hand was awkward, but I was like a million points ahead round 1. I thought, okay, if he commits like 3 or 4 more cards to win this round, he has to drive past round 2. And that gives me a long round 3, so that's easy Cultist million points. And then, after I passed, he plays Foltest onto Renfrey's gang. And then he plays the Scouts. And then...
I've seen that, yeah.
And then he was playing, like, those are big boys, like 6 points each. Man, he did really bleed me. Like with like 3 or 4 cards less, like he just played those guys for like 30 something points opening play. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, I've seen that deck. I know that deck.
It's
I know that
hilarious.
deck.
It's probably like the best application of Renfrey.
I've seen that deck. I've seen Citrian Lion play this deck. I've seen
But
that deck.
it's also weird that kind of creates a situation where a neutral card is better than the faction card that has the same function.
Oh yeah, that would be something that never happened before, right? Neutrals
No.
being too strong.
Never heard of that.
That would definitely be
No,
something
but
that never
I mean,
happened.
it's really specific. Like Commandos is really specific in what they do, and then you create a bronze.
Yeah,
it's
which is just
provision,
strictly better.
but it's better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you this, Trovy. Elder Bear at 644 is better than like 50% of 4 provision faction based cards.
Yep.
I'm gonna cry now.
Yeah, it's actually
Especially in Novigrad when you have things like Nausicaa, Brigade, or the Death with Arbalest, or
Slave Driver is a good example of a really bad card.
Slave Driver, and the worst of the worst, the Artvi and Light Cavalry, the guy that hits armor and then you get to repeat the ability, which is like super duper
bad.
conditional 644, I think.
Yeah.
And then
Nausicaa sees play though. Nausicaa Brigade sees play right now.
No, Nausicaa Surgeon sees play, the green one.
Oh yeah, sorry. The horse
engine
guy,
sees
the green
play.
horse guy.
The black one is terrible. The green one is good.
Okay. Yeah, I got them confused. I meant the green one. You know, the guy who's on a horse.
Yeah.
The green guy.
I play it in a lot of decks. It's honestly a good card.
It is.
And even if it doesn't generate a lot of value, people have to spend the control on that. Solid engine.
True. It is a good card. I agree.
But moving on, because we keep digressing here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
The topic of Syndicate actually brings us to tribalism, because for a while it seemed the devs were moving away from tribal decks. Like they didn't want to see any more soldiers, knights, whatever. But then, pirates were a thing, witchers were a thing, and it seems Black Sun kind of contradicts that theory even further. So my question is, how do you see tribal decks and their future in Gwent?
Oh, I would say that tags matter very little, honestly. Honestly, there's almost no case. Well, like you have Witchers that kind of synergize a little bit with each other. You have the gangs in Skellige, in Syndicate, where it matters the most. I guess you have some pirate archetype. Has a pirate archetype in Skellige, but ultimately, I don't think tags are gonna matter that much. But I wouldn't mind making, I don't care if they do it in a tribal or non-tribal way. I think just tag archetypes are cool. I like the fact that knights synergize with each other. I kind of like the fact that pirates synergize with each other. I kind of like the tags being used. I kind of like it. I mean, the tribal tags. Whether or not there will be neutral tribes or non-neutral, honestly, I haven't thought too much about it, but all in all, I don't mind them. Let's just say.
All right, and because we are kind of short on time and we have quite a few more questions to ask, including the golden question that's coming very soon. We already discussed this in some detail. One aspect of the game that we see being elevated once again is carryover. Be it through the veteran, infused keyword, graveyard interaction, or in case of Renfrey, the ability itself. What's your take on the ever-increasing value of carryover in Gwent?
That's a good question. I like most of it. It might be a controversial take, but I like most of it. I think some of it is handled in a good way, and some of it is not handled in a good way. One of the ones that are not handled in a good way, in my opinion, is Veteran. I don't think Veteran is handled a very good way. It creates, again, a dynamic where you're very weak early and much stronger later. I'm not sure I like that. The ones I kind of like are, for example, gaining armor on your pirates is an interesting mechanic. I mean, okay, so let me rephrase. I think I went in the wrong direction. I think the right direction to answer your question is carryover makes round one relevant. If we didn't have carryover, there are too many matchups where round one would be completely irrelevant. And at least with carryover, you have to think a bit harder on round one on stuff to do. Like another example of carryover that I think is not handled in a good way was in SI. In SI and Cyrus, Hemelfart, one of the carryovers you would get is you had to eat a unit with the Inquisitor, and then you spawn back the Inquisitor and he spawns the unit with Hemelfart. That's one of the ways where I don't think it was an interesting mechanic, because you just either you get it early on or you don't. Either you get it in round one and you just play it with no tempo loss, or you don't get it and your Cyrus is a little bit worse. But I digress. That wasn't even a big thing in the deck. All in all, I think carryover is an interesting mechanic as long as it doesn't get abused. I don't think you should be carrying over like too. Like, for example, Alumni is my favorite deck of all time, or at least one of my favorite decks of all time. But the fact that so much is decided round one is probably not that great always. Like, Alumni is a deck that entirely gets almost entirely decided by round one carryover. And I like the deck, but I wouldn't want too many decks like that. I wouldn't want all faction having an Alumni-like deck where round one carryover decides everything. Chat is asking how do I feel about hand buff carryover, and I think I don't have strong feelings about it. I think it's an archetype that's not very strong right now. It's displayed because of rent free, but I don't mind carryover as long as it's reasonable. I don't mind carryover as long as you have to pay a price for it, as long as you have to pay a price of tempo. But then again, the problem with that is not binary. It's decks like Warriors. Warriors is one of the decks I really dislike the most. There's a new expansion, because basically if you're on blue coin, you almost automatically lose. And if you're on red coin, you're playing a strong deck. And I don't like that at all. I don't like that mechanic. So basically, if you're on blue coin, if you're on red coin, you just slam your mountain warlords who play who do nothing, and then you have a strong round 2 and round 3. But if you do this on blue coin, you're just gonna lose a card. You're gonna pay a price, but on red coin you don't pay a price, and I don't like that kind of dynamic. I'd just say.
Yeah, to add into that point, hand buff, and specifically a hybrid hand buff movement, is probably one of the very few non-Novigrad decks that I'm kind of obsessed with, and then I keep trying every patch or every other patch. And last season, because of the lack of control, right, people were just playing all kinds of mid-range decks. I had a lot of success with hand buff movement. Oh man, like those spicy round 3 buffed Witchers. Felt good, man. Because you still could win round 1 with just Saskia. Saskia is just so good.
True.
Saskia, Simlas. You can commit a lot round 1 if you draw these tools, and then round 3 you are relying on your actual engines.
The problem once again is lack of control, right? The problem is once again lack of control. For example, you probably, no matter what you do, you cannot beat something like Sigvald, probably. You probably just auto-lose Sigvald with that kind of deck if the opponent knows what he's playing, what he's doing. You probably auto-lose Siege, Muta Generator Siege, because he can... Actually, no, that's not true. Muta Generator Siege had a bad... Actually, hand buff was one of the bad matchups of Muta Siege, which is weird. But yeah, you get the problem is no control, so probably a sim could be bad. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense. I like this kind of decks.
All right, then moving on, and I think it's the golden question.
Yeah.
Trophy, the floor is yours.
Drum roll. So the topic everyone was waiting for. Let's head into again free. So what is your stance on her and the overall balancing of neutral cards? We talked about it a little bit already.
Oh man, so
she's actually on the screen right now.
Popping off.
The art is fantastic, so I cannot hate the art. The art is so good that I cannot hate it. But so I actually surprised myself at how fucking mad I got on stream. I wasn't acting or anything. I just were genuinely mad. I was genuinely fuming at the fact that messing up the balance on one card is fine, but how do we have the same problem in Gwent since closed beta? How do we have the same problem, the problem that isn't present in other TCGs? That's a problem that you have in Gwent. You have sometimes overpowered neutrals in other TCGs, but in Gwent, it's been since fucking forever that you have those auto-include neutrals that are deck-defining. Well, maybe not always deck-defining, but auto-include. You had the Witcher trio at the beginning. Then you had Gippy Gerwind. You had the Unicorn duo. You had Erendite Golden Necker stuff that was everywhere. You had I'm forgetting something obvious, I think. I'm forgetting some obvious neutral that was also overpowered, but
You talked about Roach before as well.
Roach. There were others. There were so many just straight up busted overpowered neutrals. Renew is a good example. Renew was everywhere at some point. Yeah, it's just I don't know. It just blows my mind that my advice would be just don't release any more neutrals. I think nobody would care. I think we would all prefer if there were no neutrals at all, rather than every time we see like so many new cool cards and none of them will see play because an overpowered neutral is just completely dominating the meta. I don't know. I'm just getting genuinely upset with that. I'm just like I don't know how they keep making the same mistake. Like it blows my mind. If for example, like cat is cancer, cat is overpowered, fine. But at least you can mess up the balance on a like it can happen. We cannot expect there to the balance to be perfect in every faction. But how hard was it to tune down Renfrey? How hard was it to not repeat the mistake that has been done like 100 times? I'm not a game designer. When I reviewed Renfrey, I instantly called it. I said that's a terribly designed card because it will either be completely unplayable or it will be insane. How hard was it to like not give us another overpowered neutral? I'm not even sure Renfrey will stay meta, but that's not the point. Renfrey completely ruined the release of the expansion because now she's just slammed everywhere, and it's I don't know. It's really upsetting to me that we have a new meta where again everybody's playing Renfrey, and it's a completely uninteresting card. I think I saw some people say, "Oh, the mechanic is cool." I disagree. The mechanic isn't very interesting. It's just play a slightly worse deck and have a 50-point card with carryover in your deck. And I think one of the main problems with Renfrey are two options. There are two options that need. If tomorrow you remove those two options, Renfrey is kind of balanced. One is remove a unit with 10 or less power, and the second one is cooldown 7. You remove those two options, the card is already kind of acceptable. But the fact that those two options are present is just like everything worse about Gwent. RNG, if you high roll those two options, I just for one opponent finds remove 10, cooldown 7, I just forfeit. Whether my matchup is good or not, I just can't be asked to play against this stuff. Like he just high rolled the best option. He's playing. He didn't do anything smart. He just high rolled, and I don't know. I think everything wrong about Gwent is present in Renfrey. Overpowered neutral, uninteresting game design that doesn't require skill, and of course RNG. And I don't know. I think Renfrey is everything wrong with Gwent in one card. I really don't like it. I think as for potential nerfs, I think the one that needs to happen ASAP is remove the option to remove a unit with 10 or less power. If you do this, then the game will become more playable. And on more serious nerfs, it's probably the requirement should be like have 30 units in your deck. And now you're forced to play an actual shit deck. You're forced to play an actual shit deck, and your payoff is you play a fun meme card. Chat is asking, I don't understand that cooldown 7. Why is it good in NR decks? No, not in NR decks. The strongest Renfrey decks right now are Nilfgaard and Hand Buff. And basically, you play Renfrey as early as you can, and you get to play the leaders 3 times. If you play Renfrey early, you get to play the fucking leaders 3 times, which is nonsense.
4 times if you Asura.
Yeah, exactly. 4 times if you Asura. That's just nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
The funniest thing is I'm not sure it will remain meta because yesterday I saw Kazuya. You know Kazuya, right? He's a top player. He's often on the top of the leaderboard. He's a friend of Elder Blood guys. He's a cool guy as well. He was already jamming Sigvald. I was already jamming Sigvald. Nick R was jamming Sigvald. So some top players are understanding that Sigvald counters Renfrey really well. So if more people start doing this and just farming Renfrey, then we will have an interesting dynamic where, because of that, people will probably start playing heat waves in their deck to counter Sig. I don't know. I'm just saying the meta can evolve. The meta can evolve. It's not fixed. We will see how it goes. But I think a fact that we can all agree, all three of us and chat, is that Renfrey ruined game release. That when people should be testing new cards, everybody was playing just Renfrey decks instead. And I think the most fun period, which is new expansion time, got completely ruined because of an overpowered neutral.
And
While they were explaining the ability, I also felt like they were going into a more balanced direction because I thought, because they called them curses and blessings, I thought the blessings were going to be positive effects and then the curses were going to be negative effects
Yes.
for the one who played Renfrey. So it's
Yes.
balancing out, like basically like in a roguelike that you're choosing buffs and debuffs.
Yes. You know why they did it in that infused way? I learned about it yesterday. It's because you cannot copy it with Anna Henrietta. If both of them were just if she was just replacing your leader, Anna Henrietta would completely be crazy with Renfrey. But now she only copies the curse.
I think
Yep.
Aces raised a good point. He said that according to Shimiri, who obviously is part of CDPR's inner circle, the card was even better in the PDR, and it's not something that happens for the first time. I remember Shimiri saying exactly the same thing when Iced was released, and Iced on release was absolutely nuts. I remember saying, and that's when PDR included all partners, when CDPR was dead set on the idea of having Syndicate carrying over coins at full value. So things like that happened in the past. It's nothing new.
Yeah, well,
Pharaoh in chat also clarifies that it's cursing your opponent's side and then blessing your own. But even then, I think the mechanic would have been more interesting if you need to choose a debuff yourself.
yeah, I agree. So yeah, all in all, I'm not upset because balance got messed up. I was expecting balance to be messed up. I'm upset because it's in the same way that we've had since like 6 years with overpowered neutrals. It's the same way again, a neutral that is way too strong. Like at that point, just don't make any more neutrals. Just don't make them. Like we will all be fine. Or just make like I'd rather not gamble on them making strong neutrals balanced. So I said there are a few that are well balanced. Like the other guy, I don't remember his name. Eldibald. Eldibald, I think, is a good neutral. I think Puzzle Box is a fantastic neutral. I think Vial of Forbidden Knowledge is a fantastic neutral. I think there's a bunch of really good neutrals, but for all those fantastic neutrals, you have one that just ruins the game. And I'd rather not have those good neutrals. I'd rather not have neutrals at all than have those good neutrals, but also have those completely bag-breaking, game-destroying neutrals every time.
As a matter of fact, we have a follow-up question concerning Renfrey, but it feels it's gonna be very, very rhetorical.
Yeah.
Because the theory that we had at designing this question was Renfrey could result in the Golden Necker effect, which means that regardless of the faction and package you build around it, the deck is gonna feel samey. And I think it's already happening.
Oh yeah, it is. So the only way to play Neil Ward right now is with Renfrey. The only way to play ST competitively right now is with Renfrey. The best pirate deck is with Renfrey. I guess NR Renfrey is not that good because it would still be playable, but it's bad. It's worse than other stuff. I mean, Monsters Renfrey or Cat or both. Syndicate doesn't see play yet, but I don't know. Yeah, that's exactly what happened, which is, well, it is what it is, I guess, and we'll see how it develops. But right now, it ruined my fun a lot.
Mhm.
I know all decks counter her. I know you play Seagull, you counter her. I know you play Siege and counter her, but I wanted to experiment with new stuff, but now I can't. Well, to be fair, I did reach 2500 with a deck that isn't rent-free, is new, and isn't also abusing any mechanics. So, but it was through lots of pain, tears, and sweat. And it was at quite a high cost to my sanity, I think.
All right. I think we can round off the Gwent section with on a more positive note by just asking about Gwent Rogue Mage, the new it's also called a Gwent single player expansion, even though it's standalone, of course. Have you played it already?
I have, and I like it a lot. I like the game genre. I'm a big Slay the Spire fan. I have I think 1,000 hours or something on Slay the Spire, probably more actually. I don't know. I just know I've played it an insane amount of time. I like the game mode. I just hope it's not too easy. Right now, I've only completed first chapter and it was kind of easy, but I've heard that it becomes harder later. So my main fear is that it doesn't become too easy. But if it doesn't, then I think it's very fun. I think it's very fun.
Have you, for yourself, compared it to other similar modes before, like for example, Path of Champions in Legends of Runeterra, or
I
as you
actually
played Blade of
haven't
Light?
played Legends of Runeterra, but compared to something like obviously it's not as good as Slay the Spire, but Slay the Spire is genre defining, right? But I've played a lot of Slay the Spire clones because I'm a big Slay the Spire fan. So I've played lots of games that are similar to Slay the Spire. I'm not gonna plug them here, but I've played a lot of them, and let's just say that Rogue Mage does not feel worse than them. It feels better. It feels much better. So I think even if I wasn't a Gwent guy, I would be playing. Let's say I was just a Slay the Spire guy, I would be playing Rogue Mage.
It
So I
is
think
that
that's
good.
good.
It convinced GaBane, so we definitely.
I actually have a little bit of a mixed opinion on Rogue Mage, because I did play Path of Champions. Of course, it was on the wave of Arcane hype. And comparing these two modes, I feel like Path of Champions has a lot more depth and a lot more freedom, because you have 12 champions, if I'm not mistaken. Leveling them up significantly alters the way you play them. So basically it has everything that Rogue Mage has, and then a lot more on top. But at the same time, it's not the Witcher universe. So I would say that Rogue Mage is better in the sense it is the Witcher universe, and that's what attracts me to the game. But looking at gameplay purely, I think Path of Champions is just significantly better designed because it offers you so much more. And on top of that, it's free. It's a mode within Legends of Runeterra. Winning or playing games in Path of Champions contributes to your weekly vault. So it actually finishes your in-game quests as well. So you get rewards for playing. The one thing that I don't understand about Rogue Mage, and don't get me wrong, the game is really cool to play. I love it. Is why are they so obsessed with it being played offline? Like, what else? It's 2022. Everyone is playing online. Like, even in the remote part of the world, you have access to internet at enough speed to play this game. So they could as well say, well, next step is to release it on CDs. It just makes no sense whatsoever.
Why are they obsessed with it being played offline?
I don't know, because the question was always, why is it not linked to Gwent? Why are we not getting any rewards or any other perks for playing this in Gwent?
Okay.
Yeah, because we want it to be played offline. But why? Why do you want it to be played offline?
I didn't know about that.
I'm guessing
so far,
for the people that are on the road or something, I think that's for the mobile crowd, right?
I mean,
just if you're somewhere without internet.
I mean, we are in the at least we are in the EU. You know, the best place to live. Not totally objectively. So we have free internet wherever we go. No roaming
True.
fees.
True. So right now what you've done is convinced me to try Pass of Champions, not to dislike Rogue Mage, but to try something else, because I'm such an avid roguelike enjoyer. So to me, so I'm a very specific public, right? That's why I might be too optimistic, because I'm a very specific category of player who really like this genre. I will play all of the games available in the genre. I will play all of them. I played some shitty Slay the Spyro clones, which were basically just ripoffs, just for the new content. That's how much I like the genre. So again, I'm very optimistic about Rogue Mage because it's really in the kind of stuff that I enjoy. I'm gonna try Pass of Champions now as well. Even though I've never played Runeterra, I'm gonna try Pass of Champions because I really like the genre.
I only play Path of Champions and Legends of Runeterra.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think it's fair to say that it's more complex than Rogue Mage, at least as far as I've gotten in Rogue Mage. That's
Is it the
something
same structure? Is it also like a roguelike? You build, you get cards, you get
Yes.
treasures. Oh, I'm absolutely gonna play the shit out of
But
it.
the main difference is you have what you can describe as leader abilities, and you have a map just like in Rogue Mage, and you have different regions like Piltover and Zon is the first region you get to, and even there, I'm not sure if they changed that, but when I was playing, even there you had like different champions because you could play as Jinx, you could play as Vi, you could play as
Lux,
Caitlyn,
whatever, yeah.
and basically you had like 5-6 champions in only that area, and each champion has like various different runs and levels, so there's so much more content.
Okay, I will definitely give it a try. I think I will definitely give it a try. I will play Rogue Mage. I will also play Pass of Champions. I will also play Standard, and I will also never have a life. But I guess that's a prize. I guess that's a curse to get this blessing, which is how Renfi should have been.
Indeed.
I mean, it's something to think about and to play when you feel like Gwent is not exactly what you would like to indulge yourself in.
Yeah, I will definitely give it a. I will definitely check it out. Yeah, I'm a big Slay the Spyro fan, so I will definitely play those games as well.
But moving on.
Yes.
Yeah. The final part that we wanted to, well, aside from a short personal Q&A after this,
Sure.
it was competitive Gwent. So did you watch the latest Open?
Can I just for 30 literal seconds leave and be back? Like not even 30 seconds, 10 seconds.
All right,
I have to do something very, very.
Two,
one. Okay.
3.
Counting down. Yeah, we've been talking a lot about Path of Champions for the last 10 minutes.
It's a good game. The chat cannot blame us. And to be honest, I remember, and it's a story while GaBane is gone. We were prepping the episode with Jason Slama. It was like 2 years ago. So we had to add him to our friends lists on Discord. And I was almost shocked when I saw his status playing Hearthstone, like almost every day.
Sorry, what was we're talking about the Open, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, I absolutely watched the Open. I casted it actually in Russian with Nick R. We co-casted it with Nick R and Headkit. So first things first, Gandhi top. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. Gandhi top. Of course, I was very happy. Like I was already excited about the Open because I usually don't watch Gwent. I never watch Gwent. But this Open I was very excited about because Kunar is a cool guy. I know him. He's in my chat. I like him. So Kunar is a cool guy. Magpie is a player I respect a lot. I wanted to watch him. He's also a very good friend of the Russian guys I hang out with. So that's also somebody I wanted to win. Lario face reveal. Lario is a very important member of the Gwent community. He's also a very cool guy. That's also somebody I wanted to watch. Pajabol is a fantastic player, we all know. Also very cool guy. Mystical is a friend of mine. That was his first Open, despite him being probably, I don't know, a top 5 player right now. He's probably one of the best players in the world right now, probably a top 5 player. That was his first Open, also first face reveal. I was very excited to watch him. Gandalf, of course, his first Open. Gandalf is a good friend of mine, a good friend of ours. We all love Gandalf, so I was rooting for him very hard. But it was stress-free because it was Gandalf versus Mystical, and as I said, Mystical is also a friend of mine. So I was happy in both cases. Of course, Gandalf is a teammate, so I was especially happy that Gandalf won. But I enjoyed watching this Open a lot because it was full of people I liked. And I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. I hope you will not hold it against me. I know there was somebody. Oh, no, Spelling Bee I didn't know, actually. Spelling Bee, I was not familiar with him. But I played against him on ladder, and he was also doing a face reveal, so I thought that was cool.
And he got a lot of negative comments in chat.
That was so bullshit. I was watching CDPR chat, and I was so disappointed.
Because, of course, I don't know him, so I can't tell for sure. I was watching Hesser at the time, and he was like, what is going on here? And we actually did some Googling, and apparently he's a Sikh. It's a religious group originally from India and Pakistan, so that explains the headgear. They have very long hair that they are not allowed to cut. So this is part of their headgear. They wear under the turban to keep it comfortable.
And the Sikh are absolute bro tier. The Sikh are really cool people. As much as I'm not gonna go into politics. I was about to say as much as you can sometimes criticize. No, we're not gonna criticize anyone. But yeah, that was really sad. That was really sad. The comments he got, especially since the Sikh are very peaceful and cool people. Especially because of that, those are the Sikh are probably one of the most peaceful and friendly communities there are. So there really is there's no reason to hate anyone. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's okay to hate some people and not others. But what I'm saying is that hating on the Sikh is especially weird because those are some of the friendliest people I've met.
Not to mention the glorious beard at the age of, I think he's 15 or 16. Man,
holy shit, he's that young. No way.
If I had a beard like that at that age, I can grow a beard now, and I'm 32. Dude, I'm jealous.
There's no way he was that young. I didn't know that. Well, yeah, I agree. That was a top tier beard. Hard to argue with that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the comments were really out of.
But that's always like that, right? The comments always hate on everyone.
It was also weird, and they started realizing, okay, it's very bad to be discussing, laughing at a piece of headgear or something like that, and then they just went straight to, oh, why is he looking at his phone constantly? Why is he playing on his phone on mobile? So, okay.
Oh yeah, when he was obviously just looking at deck lists on his phone. Yeah, which is something you should do. You should have double screen. But yeah, all in all, I think the Open was very interesting. Okay, so one feedback I got is that, players played terribly. And I'm assuming the feedback happened because I haven't watched the official cast, so I'm not throwing shade at Lionheart or Beastie. I am not, let me be clear. I haven't watched, so I don't know if that's actually the case. But I'm assuming casters did a weird job and were calling some plays bad when they weren't bad. Because I was casting with, again, one of the best players in the world, and he did not seem to think the plays were garbage. There were a few questionable plays, yes, sure. I'm gonna call out Gandalf because he's our friend, right? And it's easier to call out your friends. Gandalf made a few questionable plays, but he played fantastically except for that. Anyone who says Gandalf played like shit has no idea of how the game works. Anybody who says anybody on the Open played like shit has no idea how the game works. There are some lines that are not obvious to new players. Or even experienced players, even to me. I'm a top 64 player, and I learned some lines by hanging out with the top of the top. I learned some stuff I didn't understand. I was asking Nikar, why is he doing this? What the fuck is happening? He was telling me, yes, it's correct. He does this because of this, and this. And even me, who am a top 64 player, I did not understand those plays. So to the people who's at some point saying, oh, what a Pepega, why did he do this stupid shit? It's not that easy. It's really not that easy. There's lots of lines that go deep, and deeper. The higher, you'd think somebody who plays in top 64 understands everything about the game, but even somebody at my level didn't understand something that the top of the top understood, you know?
Yeah, it actually reminds me of the situation during World Masters #1, which was actually held last year.
Mhm.
And Life Coach was playing against Tailbot, and during one of the matches, Life Coach went for something that's called Tempo Pass. So he committed his leader and a lot of things round 1 to just get ahead and secure long round 3. And people were just criticizing him like, yeah, why is he still playing? He doesn't understand the game. He doesn't know when to pass. And Tailbot was really, really struggling to win that round. And in the end, Life Coach went for a 3-0. And this shows exactly what you talk about. People in chat don't understand the game, and neither do I, for that matter. But when I see somebody playing at that level, I automatically assume that even when something happens that might be weird for me, they are doing that for a reason.
Well, I'm not gonna call out names, but what disappointed me is not just people in chat. What disappointed me is some pro players made some very bad takes. Not pro players, pro streamers. Like, I'm not gonna call out names, but I saw a streamer. I never watched him before. I think he came back to the game earlier, and I saw 2 of his comments in chat during CDPR, and I saw, because I was certified, it was such a shit take. It was such a bad fucking take. And you have an audience, you have a public, and he wasn't saying, oh, I think it is like, he was saying, oh, what the fuck is he doing? What a shit play. I was like, bro, come on. Not only are you a streamer, you have an audience and you have a responsibility to not criticize other people like that. You also are wrong. You're also wrong. You're also objectively wrong. And if you call a play, do it in a respectful manner. Don't just say, oh, it's a shit play, he would have won if he did it otherwise. That's not how it works. The player on the open probably understands better. Of course, there are nerves, and of course he can be wrong. No, it wasn't Spyro. Spyro is actually a pretty good commentator. Spyro is actually on point with most of the things he says. He's salty on his own stream, but as a caster, I think Spyro is a pretty good caster.
But I think from the games that I saw, it was mostly chat. I don't think the casters. There were situations where the casters did realize that they weren't fully grasping what was happening, but they were never like, okay, this is really bad.
Okay.
They never go. It's always. I think it usually originates from chat.
Okay, I see.
And the casters are always clear, I think, on when they don't understand it. They're honest about that. At least the games that I saw.
I'm thinking maybe I should actually give the name, because now people are gonna speculate and say I'm calling out other people when I'm not. Or should I not? I don't know.
You can.
It was Ziomarus. He was making some pretty bad calls. I might get his name wrong. He's an Italian streamer, I think. But I saw he had quite an audience, because I didn't watch him. I never saw him stream before, but for the past 2 or 3 days, he had like a decent audience. And he was like making really bad explanations on, he was saying, why did Magpie shuffle with the practitioner spam? Why did he not shuffle truffle when it was obviously not possible in that situation? It was just not possible. And he was like going in on Magpie doing this stuff, and I was very surprised. Again, not to call him out or anything. He might be a cool guy. I don't have anything against him, but it was just an example of a good pro player making a bad call and then saying, oh, well, yeah, those players are bad. And I saw other people, other pro players, or top 64 players saying, oh, those guys played so badly. That's what I'm trying to say, is that even if you're a good player, and I'm sure he's a good player, I'm not saying he's not. He's a fantastic player, I'm sure. And I'm also saying I'm a good player. But even I don't fully understand what those top of the top players are doing. So it's good when you call out a play to at least do it while questioning, not in a, oh, it's just like that. Just question it.
Yeah,
Could he have done this?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's also a completely different situation in an open where the deck lists are completely visible. There's going to be lines and plays as a casual player, or even further in the top 64 that you're not completely aware of, that those people just continuously practice on, and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's just how it is. Like, I feel I absolutely do not want to call out anyone. I would have probably done the same thing. I got very lucky that I was casting with one of the best players in the world, and he was there to show me the lines I wasn't seeing. But it's just a lesson for all of us, myself included, that when you don't understand something, it's better to wait and see a good player analyze it, a top player, or even the person himself. Like, of course, misplays happen. For example, what Puzzle did during his final, it still hurts my soul because Puzzle is a friend and I really wanted him to go to the Open. That was a straight up throw. He admitted it himself. The nerves got to him. It happens, right? Puzzle versus Magpie for those of you who watch the game. Like, I'm not saying this to be mean to Puzzle. It's the opposite, actually. I was rooting for him so hard, and I was hurt when those plays happened because I really wanted him to win. Some misplays happen, and sometimes good players misplay, and sometimes good players take a line that you don't understand. So the best thing to do is to hold on to judgment and wait for them to explain at least their reasoning on what happened.
Right on. Moving on to the next question, and this is gonna be a fairly short segment, unless we keep ranting about things. Obviously,
Stop ranting because I actually have to go soon, so I cannot. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it's normally we only go for about 2 hours. Right now we are already at 2 hours and 12 minutes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I speak
so
too
let's
much.
keep it. We are digressing a lot.
Yeah.
It's also nice. Don't worry about that. Did you help Gandalf prep for a tournament?
I did not.
You did
I did not. I was mostly streaming, so I did not take part in the prep this time.
I mean, we did scream Gandhi top a lot.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
It was moral support.
And
yeah, moral support was big.
On top of willing to play during an open, what are your ambitions when it comes to the competitive scene?
Honestly, my last performance in top 64 was extremely disappointing for me. I think I had so basically I'm good at building lineups. I think I played it during 3 qualifiers. During the first one, I had a fantastic tech card that helped me with that put my lineup just straight up ahead of almost every lineup. Other Elder Blood boys copied it as well because I told them in secret about it. I had a good meta read. I was like, I know people are going to be bringing Angoulême. I'm going to put a tech card to punish it. We saw it after that, all the people did it as well during the Open, the top players. But I did it before them. I already teched an artifact to play on Angoulême. But the nerves got to me and I crumbled under pressure. That's exactly what happened. So I was disappointed. I was like, okay, second time this is not going to happen. Problem is, second time I had to play qualifiers during a bachelor's weekend. So I was not in the best condition to play, let's just say. My lineup was bad, but at least the nerves were fine. So I was like, okay, third time, I'm above most people there in terms of lineup and in terms of plays. Again, not to sound elitist, but I have the level to get it to day 2. I absolutely have the level. Again, I made a fantastic meta read. I had, again, in all modesty, one of the best lineups available in top 64. I brought Syndicate with Teen Boy, which put me ahead of almost everybody. I was automatically winning the Syndicate mirrors because of that card. Again, I had a very good meta read. To the point where Pajabol and I think it was Lario. It was Pajabol for sure. The second one I don't remember. Might have been Lario, might have been someone else. Took the idea for day 2 and for the Open. They kept the idea of Teen Boy. To tell you that I had a good meta read actually. And I couldn't make it because of I was 1 win short, and I felt like it was the time for me to get to day 2. So my ambitions right now during my last qualifiers were to get to day 2 because I think I absolutely had the level to do it. But now I cannot say my ambition is to get to day 2 because I feel I can do better. So my ambition right now is to make it to the Open. I'm gonna be trying very hard to make it to the Open. Might happen, might not, but I'm definitely gonna try.
Yeah, so we can all yell GaBane top next time.
maybe.
All right. I think we can wrap it up by just letting you talk a bit about about yourself, where you're coming from, how you got into Gwent and stuff like that.
Sure. I am Gabanito. I am from Georgia, the little country. I speak French, Russian, Georgian, and English. I stream in those languages as well. Not much to say about myself, honestly. I like Gwent. I've been playing since beta. But what really got me into the competitive scene is joining Team Elderblood, because before that I didn't even know there was a top 64 or something. I was only playing for the titles. You know, the top 200 titles? Those are I was only tryharding to get those. And yeah, we'll see what the future holds. You can catch my stream at twitch.tv/GaBane22. You will see no Renfree on that stream. You will see no cheesy strats on that stream. I didn't play Priestess. I don't play Renfree. I'm not going to play Cat. I'm not going to play all this kind of... You're going to see some ethical high-level gameplay. You're also going to see me mauled. You're going to see me scream a lot. You're going to see... I don't know. Maybe you're going to see something you enjoy. And I guess that's all I can say about myself. I am also very thankful for you guys inviting me. As you probably could tell, I love talking a bit too much. I always have stuff to say. I'm never short on ideas. I talk too much, so I apologize for that. I know it was a bit longer than expected, but I hope it was still fun for you guys, and it was fun for me, certainly.
It absolutely was. It was a blast having you on the show, GaBane.
Well, it was a pleasure.
And before we end, Trophy, our viewers, where can they find you?
Yeah, as always, you can find me on both YouTube and Twitch under TrophyNut, so that's TROVNUT, where I'll probably get around to making another deck guide, because it's been a while, mostly because of the stuff at work and then combining this with the podcast. But I should be getting to a new deck guide by the beginning of next week.
Nice.
All right. And when it comes to me, you are already on my channel, twitch.tv/Weisenberg. So if you like the content I am providing, or we are providing as Merchants of Novigrad, you can follow us here. If you want to stay in touch off stream, you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is Weisenberg, MON, which stands for Merchants of Novigrad. Or you can follow our Merchants of Novigrad related channels, Novigrad Podcast on Twitter and Merchants of Novigrad on YouTube and Spotify. This episode is going to be uploaded on all platforms either later today or tomorrow, so keep an eye out. And yeah, guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for chatting, asking questions. GaBane and Trovy, thanks for doing this episode with me. It was a pleasure.
Likewise.
It was a pleasure, indeed.
Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and we'll see you
Thank
guys
you.
later.
Have a nice Sunday, everyone. Saturday and Sunday. Bye.